start with today's session. So I will be starting with CV Essential first. Before we start with CV Essential, let me make the distinction between a CV and a resume, because more often than not, we use them interchangeably, although they are not the same thing. A CV is a detailed account of all your academic as well as professional credentials. So what you have studied so far, what you have done so far, what you have achieved so far in your professional field, in your professional domain. So it's a detailed account of all those things. Whereas in resume, you focus more on your experience and your exposure in the professional domain. So it is not so much about your academics, it is more about what you have achieved so far in your professional domain. So from that, I guess you can understand that resume is more apt for those people who have 5 to 7 years and in fact more experience behind them. And CV would be more appropriate for a candidate who is just starting out, a fresher or maybe an entry level employee. Okay. So let us now discuss CV, because I guess most of you are final year or penultimate year students and you are just about to make that transition from the campus to the corporate. So you have exposure in academics but very little exposure to working domain. So let's start with the CV Essential first. You must have heard of this statement that first impression is the last impression. Now, this is a statement which we often make in the context of face-to-face interaction. So, whenever we are meeting, we are encountering a person face to face, we often try to put on our best behavior, we try to put on our best appearance, because we know that we only get the first 30 seconds to make a very strong and lasting impression. CV is the first encounter that you get to have with your future employer even before you have met your employer in person. And in case of a CV, because it is a written account, so it's not 30 seconds, but it's just the 6 seconds that you get to make that first impression. So it is as if you are speaking through your CV. So your persona, your personality comes forth through your CV. After going through your CV for the first 6 to 10 seconds, the employer has actually formed a visual image of you, a very subjective visual image of you. So now you can understand the need, the importance, the imperativeness of having a well drafted CV. So there are scores of CV formats which are available on the internet, and I'm very sure that your colleges have also shared a few formats with you with the logo of your college. Now, in the context of using the logo of your college, whether they should be used or not, if you are going for a campus interview, if it is a campus or a pool campus drive, then yes, use your logo, because you are then representing your institution, your college. But if you are going for an off campus drive, then please do away with that logo, because you are not representing any particular institution, you are representing yourself. So having said that, let us proceed further. As you can see in this particular, I could have shared a number of other formats with you, but I thought that this is the the easiest one to emulate. So I'm sharing this format with you. However, yes, as I said, there are scores of other formats which are available on the internet, and also your college might have shared formats with you, so you can go with those formats as well. The basic thing is that it has to have all the necessary information and it has to be well drafted. So these are the two prerequisites. Other than that, whatever formats you use, they are okay, as long as it is not cumbersome. So as you can see for yourself in this particular format, there is a portion which after that there is a line. So there is a portion at the top which demarcates that from the rest of the CV. Now that portion right at the top is very, very important, because it contains your contact details. So if your employer wishes to get back to you through mail, that is through postal address, through postal mail, then definitely all those information, they have to be accurate. So name, your proper name, address, the address where you reside, that is your correspondence address. And if your correspondence address is different from your permanent address or your residential address, then you have to make that distinction also. So address therefore should be number one, correspondence address, and number two is your residential or permanent address if they are different. Otherwise, when we say address, we mean a correspondence address. So if they wish to send you a letter, the letter should reach you in that address. Mobile number and your email ID. Now, speaking of email ID, there is something which I have personally observed. So I'm going by my experience and I'm sharing this with you on this platform. People these days, you all are very colorful people. We all want to show our, we all like to flaunt. We all want to show our personalities to people. So suppose you're a very cool guy. So your propensity would be to, keep an ID like I am cool so and so at gmail.com. I would say that for a professional purpose, please do away with such colorful IDs. Keep them for personal use. Use those for personal, for personal correspondence. For professional correspondence, your email ID should also look and sound very professional, which means that your email ID should contain just your name and maybe a couple of numbers prefixed or suffixed with your name, and then the domain name. Nothing more.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Ma'am, just a second. Can you just keep your that headphone down? Your noise is coming.
Okay.
Huh. Ma'am, can you just speak a little bit? Let me just.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean, you need to put it a little upward. I mean, sound is coming, but less.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Little bit upward.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's fine. Perfectly, ma'am.
Okay.
Continue, please.
So I'll hold on to the microphone like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just continue from where we left. So I was talking about the email ID and the need for having a professional email ID. That is something which contains your name and maybe a few numbers prefixed or affixed to your name. So cool and funny and all those kinds of adjectives, please keep them aside for personal use. Then coming to your academic qualifications, in a CV, it's your academic qualifications or credentials that carry a lot of weight because you are a fresher. So percentage that you have scored, your fields of study, all these are important. Now coming to academic qualifications, when you are writing them down, when you are listing them down in your CV, it should be in reverse chronological order. Reverse chronological order means that you should start with the most recent one. So if you are pursuing post graduation, then you start with post graduation. Else, if you are pursuing graduation, you start with graduation. Now, suppose you are yet to graduate. Maybe you'll graduate in the year 2021 or 2022. Then under year of passing, mention pursuing. That is PURSUING. Now, aggregate percentage or CGPA. 10th and 12th standard is mostly in percentage, whereas in graduation, it's mostly in terms of grade. So if you are mentioning a grade point, let us say you are writing 8.52 and it's a grade, it's not a percentage. So after writing 8.52, within brackets, you mention DGPA or CGPA. Okay. And if it is a percentage, let's say 79% or 89%. So after 89, 79, you mention the percentage. That is, you give the percentage sign. So that clearly demarcates that they can easily make out if it's a grade point average or if it's a percentage. Next, we come to projects undertaken, any kind of projects or training that you might have undertaken. The nearest that you can get to a professional exposure is a project undertaken. So I'm sure during the first 3 years of your graduation, you must have undertaken some kind of a project, or at least you have gone through some kind of, gone through some kind of a training, a summer internship training or a winter internship training, autumn training, whatever. So please mention those details, the organization from where you have undergone training, if it is a training, or if it is a project, what is the project title, what is the project all about, and what was the duration of the project, or what was the duration of the training, months, years, whatever you mention. Then additional qualifications or achievements or certifications. So these should be the co-curricular achievements or co-curricular qualifications. Now please understand that you are into the third or fourth year of your graduation. So anything that you have achieved in the last 4 years will count. Anything that you have achieved 7 years back, you achieved 7 or 8 years back, are not pertinent here. So if you have won any accolade, any certification, or any appreciation when you were in the 7th standard or 8th standard will not count here. Anything that you have achieved in the final year of your school, high school, or in the first, second, or third year of your college, those things will count. So anything to do with sports, debates, elocutions, or if you have taken part in a tech fest and your exhibit has won a prize or something, then do mention that. Subject of interest is very important, because subject of interest is actually talks about the topics in which are your interest area from your field of study. So topics which form your interest area from your field of study. Now when you mention something as your topic of interest, subject of interest, for example big data, machine learning, AI, whatever, if you mention that, be very specific, because machine learning, AI, these are all wider domains, so you have to narrow it down, specific topic. Be absolutely certain to face questions from those areas, which means that mention something as your topic of interest only if you are supremely confident in those, because you will be facing questions in the technical round from those areas. Computer proficiency, so you should be talking about the tools, the software tools in which you are very comfortable. So MATLAB, CAD, CAM, all these are tools, and mention those. Hobbies, I have mentioned optional. If you wish to mention, talk about your hobbies, then go ahead and mention. If you are not comfortable with sharing your hobbies on your CV, do not mention that. Then please do not mention hobbies anywhere in your CV. Just do away with that line hobby, do away with that field, with that heading hobby. And in case of hobby, I would like to add a few things. Try to mention an active hobby rather than a passive hobby. Now, what is an active hobby and what is a passive hobby? Singing a song is an active hobby. Play acting is an active hobby. Playing cricket or playing outdoor games, these are all active hobbies. Watching television, a passive hobby. Listening to song, listening to music is a passive hobby. So always try to mention your active hobbies and be very sure that those indeed are your hobbies. So do not cook up stories, because again, hobbies like subject of interest is an area which is going to draw a lot of attention from the interviewer. So if you mention something as your hobby, you will be asked questions from there. And then comes your personal details, your date of birth, your gender. In case of languages known, the first language that you should mention is English, followed by your first language, that is your vernacular, and followed by a third language if you are comfortable with it. And of course, date and place is there only on the hard copy. So if you are submitting a hard copy of your CV, mention date and place. And also signature if you're submitting a hard copy. Soft copies do not have that signature. And soft copies also do not have date and place, simply because you sent your soft copy as an attachment with a mail, and the mail itself has got date and place in it. Place is not important, but date is important. So whenever the mail lands in the inbox, they will get to know the date. Okay, so much for your CV. And a few other things that you need to keep in mind. First and foremost, like any other document, it should be neat and well drafted with even space between paragraphs. So if you have chosen 1.5 paragraph spacing, then it should be 1.5 throughout, right from the beginning till the end. So don't keep changing the paragraph spacing. Should be free from grammatical, structural, and spelling errors. So grammatical and spelling errors, they are a real put off. They are a real put off. And this is where you make an impression. So if your CV is full of grammatical and spelling errors, you have very little chance of being called for the interview. So after you have drafted your CV and before taking out the final print, get it proofread by somebody else, not you, because you are the one who has drafted the CV. So somebody else should proofread for you. If you really need to highlight a feature, if you're looking forward to highlighting a feature, use features like bold, underline, and italics. Do not use multiple colors, because I have personally come across CVs where students have used different colors to highlight certain words which they wanted to highlight. So do not do that. Use other features. You have bold feature, you have underline feature, do use them. And do not mix font type. So it should be a universal font. And regarding font types, just stick to ones like Times New Roman, Arial, Helvetica, or Calibri between the size of 12 to 14. Anything less than 12 is not quite visible, and anything more than 14 becomes an eyesore. So use 14 for fields, for headers, for headings, and rest of the CV use 12. So that was so much about CV writing.